Thanks for coming. Super excited to be here. This is my 10th year at South by, which is insane. And I'm glad to go back to the format. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I decided to do a full Q&A, and it was a lot of fun and really set the tone for what I did with my last book and things of that nature. There's a mic right up here. I'm going to probably talk for only 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, so if you've ever wanted to ask a question, I think it's a really good time to actually get up from your seat right now and start getting into line. So do that. Um, so, as you're debating your questions, let me talk to you about what's on my mind. I know there's a good mix of people here who know quite a bit about me, and I'm sure there's a good mix of people who don't. For my whole life, I called myself a businessman. We now call that an entrepreneur. I've always been selling stuff. And what it's synthesized to for the people that are paying attention to me closest is I'm really, really focused on attention. All the happiness that I've had professionally has been my ability to understand where the consumer attention is while the world underestimates it. This conference, the people in this room are easily aware of where things are going. You wouldn't be at this conference, you wouldn't be coming to these kind of talks if you didn't understand where the attention is either or about to be. I think this space, our space, tends to think attention is going to be in places a little bit too quickly. For example, the last 2 or 3 years, I've been debating very aggressively with a lot of my Silicon Valley friends that VR on the consumer level is much further away than we think. The technology's there, but it kind of reminds me of Internet 92. It's going to take time for normal people to. How many people, by show of hands, outside of people that are in the business, know of a human being who actually spends 2 hours a day or an hour a day in VR? A human being not in the business. 3. So we got a long way to go. And I think that's the things we need to think about, right? And so, but to me, I'm unemotional. Like Twitter, email marketing, YouTube, these are the platforms that through the years really helped me grow my wine business, my brand, my agency. But the truth is I'm unemotional about whether they're here tomorrow. I'm sad that Twitter's ad product isn't as good as I'd like it to be, but I would never waste my money, tell you to waste your money, or guide my startups or companies to waste their money in that platform. To me, I'm obsessed with the underpriced nature of Facebook's ads marketplace right now, but the day it becomes overpriced, I won't cry. I'll just move on to wherever our attention. So there's an unemotional attention grab that I'm focused on. And then I think a lot of the other themes that may happen here is I'm pretty undereducated in hindsight, right? I was an extraordinarily poor student. And as I continue to hear things like, there's some amazing thing I saw on social on my feed the other day, like a graffiti artist saying, the creative people that are winning are the kids that got through adulthood without being tainted, right? And I actually think that so much of what I think about just comes from a pure audit. I don't have a preconceived notion when I look at most things. And I think that blindness, when I went into the agency world, right now I'm running an 800-person agency. We've gone from 0 to $130 million in revenue. When I started it, people made fun of me and said, just because I had a lot of Twitter followers, how was I going to compete with real Madison Avenue? For me, the reason we've been so grossly successful is I didn't have any of the baggage of the agency world. I knew nothing about the agency world. In the same way I didn't know anything about the wine business when I went into my dad's business. And whatever I operate for the next 2 or 3 things until I buy the Jets and win Super Bowls, I'm going to be very blind to it. And so I implore people to make things more simple. I think things are extremely simple if you allowed them to be that way. I think we make them very complicated. And I think a lot of people here, how many people are running or work at a startup, early stage startup? Raise your hands high. Just want to get a sense. It's a lot. So to me, one of the things that's very devastating and the difference of being here today versus 10 years ago is the people that were here 10 years ago were building products and we're trying to build products and or businesses, one or the other. The far majority of startups in our ecosystem today are building financial arbitrage machines. All they're doing is trying to hit certain metrics to raise the next round of capital to keep going until some sort of imaginary exit. And that's scary to me because for anybody else here who's following the business world, we've now lived through 8 or 9 very good years in our economy. That plays itself out eventually. And when there is no more money and you actually have to run a business, all those things you cared about like CAC and LTV and all these other lovely important things become far less important than do you make more money than you lose each month. Let me just remind everybody, you're not a superstar entrepreneur when you're losing money each month. And so there's a lot of interesting themes that are in play right now. And so those are the things I like to pay attention to. I reverse engineer human behavior, and I deploy my actions in the places where I think there's opportunity. And so that's my thesis. That's what I roll on. And most of it's very tried and true. I love HR, I love people behavior, and I love consumer trends. This is the place to be for that stuff. So thanks for having me, and I'm ready to answer questions, whether very tactical of like how to run a Snapchat filter ad, or philosophical of like how do you tell your mom that she's ruining your life. So cool. Name and question.
Steven Rosenberg. My question is, so I watch you go all over the country and all over the world, and people ask you the same questions
Yes.
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So I want to add value and ask you, what kind of questions do you want people to ask? You don't have to answer the same question over and over.
So Steve, this is literally the question I hate the most.
Okay. Really?
I'm not even kidding.
Really?
I'll
Okay.
explain in a minute.
Yeah.
Literally, I would have preferred you asked me the same cliche question.
Really?
Yes, I'll tell you why. When you're
Dude.
answering people's questions,
Yeah.
you need to provide them value, not yourself value.
Correct.
Do you know why 98% of the South by keynotes this year are going to suck shit?
Because they're not Gary.
Because they're doing press releases for their best behavior, not for the audiences. The reason I'm doing a keynote is a Q&A session is I want to give you something. I'm plenty comfortable self-promoting plenty of other times. And so I don't have any question there's nothing I want to be asked. All I want to do is give people what their question is. I don't mind answering the same question over and over. You know why? We have 7 to 11 basic themes that are fucking us up.
Right. So, all right, let me ask you this. What do you
Fine.
think of eco-capitalism moving forward in 2017?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Eco-capitalism?
Like, break it down for me, because
So-
another great thing about Q&A is I try not to answer shit I don't understand.
Yeah, so basically corporations being able to profit from their waste stream. So it's really wasteful, and you have to pay for waste, and
So-
then using social to change that.
So in that vein, I don't know all the details, but I'll
Okay.
go thematically with you.
Please.
Companies are very basic.
Okay?
They never do good things unless it's good for the company.
Right.
So if there's way to incentivize, it's like when people are CEOs and they're mad at their sales team for selling the wrong shit, but meanwhile the CEO's bonusing them on that shit behavior. I'm like, you're a shithead. Change the bonuses
Right.
and they'll adapt. You want to fix the environment, make and incentivize every company to do that, they will do it every single time.
Correct. But it's hard for them to get on board initially. Even though it capitalistically makes sense for them to listen to that, they hear environment and they go, oh,
Yeah, I would tell you that I don't believe that, and let me explain why. I'm not sure who's feeding them that information, but I promise you, every CFO of every Fortune 5,000 company in the world, unless they decide to make it a political issue, which I'm very empathetic to, is going to always make the dollar and cent decision.
okay. I mean, doesn't VaynerMedia spend money on waste?
Of course.
A lot.
I don't know, to be frank.
I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Me? Seriously? That is literally the first time I've ever fucking heard that in my life. Can you guys pump me up? Got it. I'll go harder. What's up, my man?
How are you, Gary?
What's your name?
Trevor Williams, Austin, Texas.
Love it.
First off, real quick, huge fan.
Thank you.
Limiting myself on my goals, and you've kind of helped me blast through those.
Thank
We
you.
have a local company, iVitamin. We do IV hydration therapy. Great for hangovers, by the way. South by good time.
So the kind of shit where you get drunk and you go into a place and they put an IV in you?
Exactly. It's not
Okay.
just that, though. It's overall health,
Got it.
fatigue. It's overall wellness.
Okay.
Great response. New category. We're
Yep.
the only one here in Austin. There's only about a handful of them across the United States.
Okay.
We're trying to raise awareness of how it makes you feel, how it helps you, and we're overwhelmed. We have 4 partners that are working full time. We're trying to scale it pretty quickly, so we're doing all the standard operating procedures. So how do we spend
You're
the
trying to scale quickly because you feel like you could be commoditized if other people open up other shops?
Yeah, we just want to be first. It's a first to market play. It's not really controllable.
Not always, right? It's first to market play a lot of times on brand, but not on locations. And this is where a lot of people get fucked up. They overexpand and they lose Krispy Kreme, things of that nature. It's iconic. It's 80 years in the making. People want to move fast and they think their advantage is locations. It's actually brand. And what a lot of people end up doing is they go tactical and try to open up those locations instead of worrying about the things that will give them a marathon because you're not running a sprint unless you're looking to exit in the next 24 months and sell off the company. So your behavior needs to map that. It's just one thing to keep in mind, but keep going.